4 translation. Tat, for this reason. Adja, from this day. Na, upon us. Papam, reaction of sin. Upaite, will overtake. Ananvayam, disruption. Yat, because. Nashta, abolished. Natasha, of the monarch. Vaso, of wealth. Vilum pakat, being plundered. Parasparam, between one another. Inanti, will kill. Sapanti, will do harm. Vrinjate, will steal. Pasun, animals. Striya, women. Artan, riches. Kuru, greatly. Dasyava, thieves. Jana, the mass of people. So now this is the English translation. I'll say a few words, you can repeat, then I'll read the whole thing. Due to the termination of the monarchical regimes, and the plundering of the people's wealth, by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruptions. People will be killed and injured. And animals and women will be stolen. And for all these sins, we shall be responsible. So this is the boy's father speaking to him. Due to the termination of the monarchical regimes and the plundering of the people's wealth by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruption. People will be killed and injured, and animals and women will be stolen. And for all these sins, we shall be responsible. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
The word na, in parentheses it says we, is very significant in this verse. The sage rightly takes the responsibility of the Brahmanas as a community for killing monarchical government, and thus giving an opportunity to the so-called Democrats. See, I always knew it was the Democrats. We should vote Republican. I couldn't help it. It was like a hanging curveball. Thus, see, I'll start reading again. The sage rightly takes the responsibility of the Brahmanas as a community for killing monarchical government, and thus giving an opportunity to the so-called Democrats, who are generally plunderers of the wealth of the state subjects. The so-called Democrats capture the administrative machine without assuming responsibility for the prosperous condition of the citizens. Everyone captures the post for personal gratification. And thus, instead of one king, a number of irresponsible kings grow up to tax the citizens. It is foretold herein that in the absence of good monarchical government, everyone will be the cause of disturbance for others by plundering riches, animals, women, etc. The verse again is due to the termination of the monarchical regimes and the plundering of the people's wealth by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruptions. People will be killed and injured, and animals and women will be stolen. And for all these sins, we will be responsible. So, the sage is obviously very, very disturbed. He was not at all supportive of his son's actions, nor did he think this was necessary. There was no serious offense by the king. And there's so many different... First of all, I just want to mention that this was written probably late 50s, early 60s, while Prabhupada was in India, so it had nothing to do with American politics as we know. The Democrats is a phrase for people who, democracy, where the popular vote is what determines who rules. And there's also, actually, what I would, we had a discussion the other day. Margaret P. was saying that we were a republic. I think it was more like a Democratic republic because we vote for the legislators, and they vote for the laws. So it's a combination of a republic and a Democrat. So, but Prabhupada's talking about democracy. That's what he referred to it as. So, without getting into the nitty-gritty of the intricacies of the U.S. government. So, there's so many things to talk about here. I mean, I just didn't, I don't know where to even begin. The first thing that came to my mind is fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Because he acted impulsively. And it's very similar in a sense, not exactly, but, in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is on the battlefield, and he's looking out at the two armies in front of him. And you all know the story. Everyone here is acquainted. And he's saying, it starts on 36, text 36. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore it is not, he says, aggressors, because they kidnap their wives. There's 6 types of aggressors. A poison giver, one who sets fire to the house, one who attacks with deadly weapons, one who plunders riches, one who occupies another's land, and one who kidnaps a wife. All of which the other side was guilty of. But they were cousins. They were family. And their teachers and their gurus, and so on and so forth. So this was very... So Arjuna, he's saying, we should... therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune? How can we be happy by killing our kinsmen? O Janardhan, all these men with hearts overtaken by greed see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends. Why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? And it goes on and on like this. And Srila Prabhupada, I'll cut it short because Srila Prabhupada, a matter of time. But Srila Prabhupada, when he commented on this verse, he said that this is proof that Arjuna is a virtuous person, because before one acts, one should weigh the consequences of his action. Is this the right thing? Will this bear the fruit that we desire, or are we just acting out of lust, anger, envy, greed, avarice? Is this a religious act? Are we doing this to reestablish religious principles? Is this virtuous? So, and we know what the answer is to this. But this is the nature of a mature person who's pious. And of course, he's also doing this for our behalf to teach us, so that Krishna has the chance to teach teach us the nature of this material world and the different paths of liberation, and what he recommends is the best way to become free from the clutches of this cycle of birth and death. So, in that sense, there's a similarity in the sense that the similarity it's actually not a similarity in the sense that Arjuna waited, whereas this young boy immaturely acted. And what I immediately started thinking is like, there's always a conversation in our society today, at what age do you teach a child how to shoot a gun? Or at what age, like say if you're a chemist, at what age do you teach him the science of chemistry so that he can create deadly, lethal chemicals, or he can create, some brew that's intoxicating? At what age, if say you're a fancy stunt driver, And what age do you teach them to drive a motorcycle on one wheel? You know, when is the right age to teach these things? And here's this boy, and we don't know his age, but he was taught, basically, you know, it's an incantation. He was taught how to curse. Very powerful curse. And that's similar to where Ashvatthama, who was a grown man, but he had it stated that by Prabhupada and all the previous acharyas that he was unqualified. But his father, Dronacharya, taught him how to read the mantra to release a Brahmastra. But he was not, and his father knew that he wasn't really qualified. Everyone knew it. And he misused it. And he did this heinous act, thinking he was going to please Duryodhana. And it actually, Duryodhana was lying there with a broken back, and he goes and reports that I've killed the 5 sons of the Pandavas, and Duryodhana just is wailing in lamentation that this was wrong, because we needed that bloodline to continue. So, and then he even tries to kill Parikshit with a Brahmastra, and that's when Krishna comes and saves him in the womb. And so Parikshit is always looking for that person that he saw in the womb. And this whole pastime is that I heard Prabhupada saying that Krishna was anxious for, Parikshit was anxious to see Krishna, but I believe that's actually what his name means, looking for that perfect, beautiful person. And Krishna was anxious for Parikshit to come home. I was thinking about that when I heard Prabhupada say that. I was thinking, I just envisioned this thought. I have a tendency to dream, fantasize, hopefully spiritually. And sometimes I think of ideas for like little ways to express dramatically, theatrically. So I was thinking, a devotee is sitting down chanting their japa. But it would have to be somebody like Haridas Thakur. But anyway, just imagine that it's possible. Because the only sound vibration that can pierce through the covering of the universe is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. So, if you are actually chanting it purely, Krishna's in his name. He's personally present. Prabhupada said he's dancing on your tongue. You're actually licking Krishna's feet. So that's the first thing, is you taste the lotus feet of Krishna. So, and when oh when will that day be mine? I was envisioning that you're sitting, you show a devotee and he's sitting and he's chanting really seriously, and then you see Krishna under a tree with his flute, and then all of a sudden he hears, who's that chanting like that? Who's chanting like that? Who's that? Oh, Bhakta so-and-so. I want him home with me. Like that. That is possible. Prabhupada said once that if you're out distributing Prabhupada's books, which are Krishna's books, and you're sincere about it, the first thing you'll hear is ankle bells. Then you turn around, and that will be Krishna. And everybody was always, get that moment. But it's not a cheap thing, and it takes time. But these things are true. This process will connect us with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So my point is that it seems as if that this was that this boy should not have been taught how to do this, because look what the reactions are. It only led to him acting impulsively, and it's like boys being what they are in front of their friends. Well, you said that about my father. Well, take this, without thinking about the consequences. And so we get caught up ourselves in situations when doing business or whatever. We get caught up in situations where all of a sudden, boom, and you're impulsively acting. And it takes a tremendous amount of practice to learn how to exhibit the qualities that are necessary to actually be attractive to Krishna. Not to react impulsively. I mean, impulsively, the other day, I had to walk through the altar, and they were dressing, Leela and Kaivalya were dressing, and it was Radharani was wearing that black velvet outfit, but they hadn't put the wig yet on, and no decorations. She just had a black velvet outfit with gold. Is that like what, gold lame or something? Yeah, and you just see this little black collar, and I just was walking by, and just I couldn't move. She was so beautiful. I mean, I don't know if it was appropriate, but when you see her, especially in that, just without in that outfit, it just. But I'm talking about acting impulsively. That's a way that would create the wrong impression. I mean, we're in a place where we're all diseased. We all have diseases. It's material disease. And Prabhupada said, we're all contaminated. And this is the process of purification. So, the better we practice this process, the better we'll become and be able to act properly in all circumstances and treat one another with the dignity that they're deserved. This is what I pray for. But the process is that we come together in the mornings and we, if it's possible, there's health considerations, there's work considerations, and so on and so forth. But engaging in the study of the scriptures together, engaging in the chanting of the 16 rounds, and chanting. Prabhupada said, if you want cooperation, you attend Guru Puja for the founder Acharya. Then there will be cooperation. And that is what will please him the most, the ability that we to cooperate. Because we're all very, especially in the West, we're all very strong personalities. So I'm sure in India as well. But we're all, the American model. I was in a meeting once, an international meeting of temple presidents in the mid-70s. This one European, actually he was from Sweden, and it was predominated by the American temple presidents in those days. So I was sitting next to the Swedish president, and he said, "My goodness, you Americans are so democratic. We're like every man's vote counts. You must hear my opinion." And he just, and I couldn't understand what he was talking about. Now they stepped back, and I sort of, and over the years I've realized that we have a kind of intensity about us that other cultures may not understand, and vice versa. So that was the beauty of Srila Prabhupada, that he was able to cross over all cultural considerations and ethnic backgrounds and be able to make the all attractive to all. He is able to present the Krishna consciousness philosophy, the Krishna consciousness principles to all generations, to all peoples of the world. And that was his mission. And our business is to try to serve that mission. So a story like this teaches us how, the results of immaturely reacting certain circumstances and misusing. And so these are not like, these mantras that they're being taught, they're not necessarily spiritual. They're material mantras that manipulate the material energy. The mantra that overrides everything is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. One other thing quickly I was thinking is that, actually there were several other things, but I see the time is running out. So, my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, she's into this Harry Potter story. And it's, I don't know if anyone's familiar with it. I know very little about it, but I did watch 2 movies with her over the summer vacation with her. And so I got an idea what the storyline is. And what I found very interesting is that it's about wizards, people with magical powers. And there's those that are born like they're like your father, you're in the family of wizards. And so you're in a higher realm. You're like born in the family of Brahmins. So you automatically get to go and be trained in these magic tricks or whatever. But then there's some people, they're common people, and they have a name for them, and they show tendencies that they are qualified. Sort of like our philosophy. It's not by birth, it's by your qualities and by your activities. And they get to go and learn these magic things. And it's a very similar sort of parallel. But even in this story, they don't teach certain magic to the children until they're old enough to know. Like we don't allow children to drive cars until they can start, I think in some states, learning at 16, and then, I don't know, in different parts of the country it's different, but I think it's usually around 18. You don't, I don't know about what the use of guns is, or when you can get a gun license, but there's certain things that are regulated by age. I remember growing up in the 1950s, and they would always say, the adults would say, this is for adults. This is adult talk. And they would say something like, little pictures, small ears, big ears. Like we're small and we have big ears. So they don't want to talk about adult things in front of us. And I always thought, that's ridiculous. Whereas in Krishna consciousness, the adults and the children are all talking about the same thing. We're all talking about the glories of Krishna. There is no adult pleasure and children pleasure. There's only Krishna pleasure. So, it's just one little observation that that story. They were in this fiction. They have a code that the children should only be trained to a certain point. So, but in this case, Shringi, obviously it's all pastime. He wasn't. He was trained too quickly and given a mantra that he didn't know how to properly use. He may have been able to do it in a way that actually had its effect, but he should never have used it. But it set into motion the beginning of the story where Parikshit goes and sits down and hears the Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. And that's the point. The whole point of this pastime is that it brings about, Parikshit resigns to the curse, he accepts it, he sees this as a blessing in disguise, and he searches out what he should do. He's advised to go to the bank of the Ganges and sit down and listen to the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the qualified Sukadeva Goswami.
John.
So, that's. If there's any questions or comments, I'd be
I
eager
have
to
a
hear.
silly question.
Yes. Silly question?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I might give a silly answer. I don't know.
It says, when Parikshit Maharaj was in mother's womb, Krishna came and protected him from Brahmastra.
Right.
Now, in this case, I know he wanted to create that situation where Parikshit Maharaj is getting ready to leave his body. that's why Takshak came and all those things happened.
Mhm.
But my question is why Krishna didn't save him from that curse?
Well, actually, in the 12th canto, I was reading where, I can't remember that, I think it's Kashyapa Muni, was on his way to reverse the poison. And Takshaka knew that he was coming, and he met him in the forest, and he spit his poison onto a tree, and the tree died, and Kashyapa chanted a mantra, and the tree was revived.
Right.
So Takshaka realized he can reverse it. So then he, I don't know if you call it a bribe, but he put before him a great number of valuable jewels, gems, I believe it is, gold. And Kashyapa didn't want to just take a bribe, but he thought, maybe I should at least count it. So he got distracted. Is that right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And so, because I read it some time back, a few months ago, and I'm trying to remember exactly. And so he didn't arrive, and Parikshit Maharaj wanted this to happen. He accepted. But also, and I brought this Bhagavatam with me, but there's not enough time to do it. Maybe in my next class. But there's anyway, because it got to, so at the end of Sukadev's descriptions, he tells Parikshit how bad things are going to get. And I'm thinking to myself when I'm reading this, he even lists about 1,200 years of kings after Jamanjaya that are slowly getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And some of these are names that are probably taught in Indian history. One family is spelled Maurya, and there's a Kanva, Kanva. These are, I've seen in certain things on the internet where they describe over the past 4,000, before the British and the Muslims, there were various small kingdoms and how they changed over the years. And one was a Gupta, and it's described in the 12th canto. And then he describes the nature of the leaders and how degraded they are. And power is, if someone has money, then he's respectable. If you don't have money, then you're considered, there's something, I don't know if we can trust you. The standards, it's not based on virtue or qualities. It's based on your material wealth, your material power. And there's so many other factors that, I think I don't have enough time to read now. But there's a series of verses that describe all this. And so then, then he describes, how really bad it's going to get, and until Kalki comes at the end of Kali Yuga. But there's another chapter after that called the Bhumi Gita, which describes it doesn't say Lord Chaitanya. Let me see if I have it. I think I marked it. Yeah, it's this one here. This verse here. Some of you may know this verse already. But in the Bhumi Gita it says, my dear king, and this is after he's told him all of the awful things that are going to happen in Kali Yuga. And he says, my dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. Purport. After mentioning the innumerable faults of this age of Kali, Sukadeva Goswami now mentions its one brilliant aspect. Just as one powerful king can kill innumerable thieves, one brilliant spiritual quality can destroy all the contamination of this age. It is impossible to overestimate the importance of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Especially in this fallen age.
Can I say something to that?
Yes.
What my realization is, what you were talking in your question was that this is all done by the Supreme Lord, so things that come to my mind, so Maharaj Pariksha can be glorified because he likes to see his devotees being glorified, and also because now this whole narration of the Srimad Bhagavatam is being told, of all the sages and everything, and as it goes on, we see how Krishna wanted Prabhupada to come, and he kept saying, you come, no, such a horrible place. But he insisted. And so Srila Prabhupada so mercifully had to come, and even with Krishna sitting on his shoulder, telling him, directing, you write books about me. So I feel that is, this is all happening by the will of the Lord, so be merciful that Prabhupada is so mercifully. Now we can be hearing it today and relishing it and embodying it and trying to find it.
So I don't think your question was silly at all. It was a very important question.
Thank you.
What was it again? I was being silly. You asked why did he allow it to happen?
First he saved Parikshit Maharaj.
Yes. He is saving Parikshit. He's saving him to bring him home. He's taking him home because we all, no matter, there's a very interesting verse in this 12th canto that says, you may have, your body, this body, may be the body of a king. But the ultimate result is it will turn to earth or stool or ashes.
Yes.
So you're proud of this body, this king's body, but ultimately everyone.
All ashes.
Dust to dust, ashes, that's all. Or animals eating you. I've seen this one place I was on a train. It was New Delhi, I think. This was years ago in the 70s. I don't know. It was huge. I didn't know what it was. But it was like mountains of gray charcoal. And they told me it was a crematorium. And you see all these like wild dogs roaming through it. It was on the train from Vrindavan to Delhi. From Mathura to Delhi. You've seen this. And I think it's important. Actually, people should see this. Instead of hiding it.
Yeah.
I worked in a hospital when I was young, and when I was just beginning to see the devotees and know the devotees. And a man died one day. And I'm like, because I was talking to the man when it happened, and I couldn't understand what happened because the person was there, but he wasn't. And they just like tag the toe, bag the body, clear the halls, don't let any of the other patients know. If there are any guests on the floor, keep them in their rooms, shut the doors, shut down the elevators, and get them down to the morgue, because it's bad for business. That's ridiculous. We should know, we're going to die. Like Prabhupada would say, the death rate hasn't changed. With all the scientific and medical advancement, the death rate is still the same. Everyone who's born dies. 100%.
Yeah, it was a brilliant question. When Srila Prabhupada answered that.
Yeah.
He said that, India has got so much of death rate. And then he said, everywhere there is death
rate.
Yeah.
But what is the death rate? Well, I don't know how many times I've gone into a college classroom and said, so, here's a question for you. What is the death rate? After all of our scientific advancement, and everybody's like, 100%.
Yes, that's what was the answer.
Yeah. But the thing is that Parikshit is showing us how to die. How to prepare for death. Yeah. He asked the question, what is the duty of an intelligent man, knowing he's on the threshold of death? What is the best thing for him to do? And the best thing for him to do is to sit down and hear the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, because you could. There's many points along the way you could say, well, it seems like, why go through all this big battle of Kurukshetra if they're only going to rule for 36 years or so, the Pandavas, and then why go saving Parikshit, and he's only ruling for a few decades. But the point is that it's all setting the stage for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the most munificent incarnation. This is the most merciful process. The simplest way. Instead of Astanga Yoga and meditating, up in the Himalayas for many years under severe austerities, in this age, simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Again! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Again! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari. That's all we have to do. It's simple, but it isn't easy. Because you also have to control your mind. Anything else?
Every morning, Vittalesha Prabhu, when he gives us class, he always mentions Parikshit Maharaj. He says that Parikshit Maharaj had 7 days. We know how much time we have. He always says.
Who said that?
Vittalesha Prabhu, your godbrother.
Oh, where's this?
In New Orleans.
In New Orleans. Yeah.
He always says.
Yeah. And I had a situation where I was told that you either do this surgery or you probably die, in a couple of days or something. And I thought, this is what I've been working for my whole life. It's my Parikshit Maharaj moment. And then I saw my wife, and I thought, she's hiding back there. I saw her and I thought, I can't just leave now. I have to make some arrangements. Yeah, so that's a blessing to know.
Yeah.
Because it may come at, I was driving through a green light, and I was hit by a red pickup truck with dual axles at 65 miles an hour.
Oh dear.
And I felt myself drifting out of my body. But I had a CD or MP3 player in my vehicle, and I could hear Prabhupada. It was still working. But, so you never know when it's going to happen. It can happen at any time. But it's mercy to know like that. So, that's a gift. It's a gift. Okay then. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.